Meaney and Frank Brank here with you on Mean Streets, presented by Game Plus Network. We are talking March Madness. We just went over the South. Let's talk East. Let's talk East region here. We're gonna roll through all the regions. A reminder that we have a free bracket challenge for you over at FTNBets.com. Baylor, the 1 seed. I think Frank, this the 1 seed that I have the most concerns with. Just some health concerns there. Get your thoughts on that in a little bit. North Carolina, I believe, was the 8 seed last year too, and I think they got bounced. Or last time in the tournament, I think they got bounced. UCLA, man, I've been really impressed. I was really impressed with them over the past week. You got Texas in there. That's, I think, a pretty intriguing 6-11 matchup there. Purdue, Yale, they escaped and got in the Ivory League. I watched that game just like heartbreaking at the end. I thought it was just some sloppiness in that basketball game. But Kentucky in there at 2 as well, which obviously Kentucky's always a threat. So we see DJ Betts in the house. UCLA can lose to Akron Upset City. I don't know. Are you going there, Frank? Is that a potential upset that you see, man? I really like this UCLA team, man.
UCLA had this lull in the middle of the season that made me think like, all right, they're not that good. Because coming into the season, I was like, this team isn't that good. Johnny Juzang got hurt and kind of sat out some, and they had a little bit of a lull in there. I don't think Akron's going to win. I don't. UCLA has played better down the stretch. The tournament last year, I think, gave them a little bit of unjust credit. A lot of those teams just choked down the stretch on free throws, and like UCLA was like skinning by and not playing particularly well on either side of the ball, and just they played okay on the defensive side. But I think they're a little bit overrated, but I don't think that they're going to have a problem with Akron. We could probably talk about the St. Mary's game. St. Mary's another team that's just like solid, not great, but solid that could win. But even at that, I do think if you twist my arm, I think they'll win 2 games here.
Yeah. What do you make of Baylor? Was I incorrect to say that out of the number 1 seed, like all the 4 ones, that maybe they're the team to have most concerns with? Or what do you think?
I would say in terms of concern, I think they're the best chance to lose in the second round out of all the teams. I don't even know if that's really an indictment on them. UNC is just so athletic and so big and talented, like they always are. And they played well down the stretch, right? Like they wiped out Duke, who I rate very highly. That game, I had that game listed about a 5-point favorite for Baylor. That's not always the case with, number 1 seeds in the second round. I mean, you're talking about like a 40% chance that they lose that game, right? Even if they end up with Marquette's a solid, kind of similar to St. Mary's, not great, but solid team. I do think UNC will win. I have them as like medium favorites, I think 4 or 5-point favorites. And then they're going to end up with Baylor. And Baylor is, they're injured right now, but man, they're so good in terms of like efficiency. They're the one team, and this was apparent last year in the tournament as well. They're the one team that looks like an NBA team when you watch them, right? They can shoot it. They defend really well. They just do everything well. They run these back cuts from the corner. So, as soon as you come out to challenge the corner threes that they love to take, they'll back screen on top of it and hit some back cuts there. So they really have some creative stuff that most college basketball teams don't really deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that's why they've been so successful, particularly against good teams.
All right, so the same sort of questions I'm going to ask you with every region here, like maybe 2 that you think are going to come out, and also like a team that could maybe make some noise, right? There's always a sleeper team or so that maybe could go on a bit of a run. Do you see one here?
Yeah, this is similar to the what was that? The South, similar to the South, but not as drastic because teams are top heavy, right? Like Baylor and Kentucky are better than everyone else, and I'm not even so sure that Purdue's far behind them. You wouldn't be surprised to see UCLA or even North Carolina or Texas or somebody like that. Virginia Tech played really well down the stretch and found their way into the tournament. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but I think these 1, 2, and 3s are much better. Purdue was the number 1 team in the country a couple of weeks ago. They sort of limped down the stretch, but they have size and athletic ability that I saw a lot of people picking Yale. It's just not going to happen. I think Purdue's like a 16-point favorite in that game, and I have them favored by like 18, I think. So they're favored by as much in some cases as the number 1 seeds in some other regions. So I do think the Purdue-Kentucky game is probably going to be the biggest game, winner if it comes to that. But even looking at that, I mean, Texas is going to give Purdue a game. And if they play as kind of choppy as they did down the stretch, they're going to struggle against that Texas team that's a little bit underrated. So, yeah, I think less so. Baylor, I think, is the obvious pick. I see a lot of people taking Kentucky. I'm not as high on Kentucky. They rely on high scoring games and rely on shooting, I think, a little bit too much. Not crazy efficient on defense in my model. You look at it, they played Tennessee twice on the stretch, lost to them. They played them the first time and shot literally 70% and won the game by, like close to 1,000,000 points. But in any game, I think that they get challenged by size, like a Purdue matchup. I think they're going to struggle a little bit more than they have throughout the regular season. And they might struggle, particularly with Baylor, who has been a good defensive team for like 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, Purdue 15.5 point favorites. A lot of Indiana chatter here in the chat. I mean, they still gonna beat Wyoming, but if you were to
Yeah.
pick one of the two, it just Indiana. Do you think they get in? I guess they're
Um,
technically in
yeah.
with the new rules. They're in. This is
Yeah.
not a play-in game.
I see a lot of people were excited about Wyoming. I think Indiana will win that game. I think there's something to be said about the scheduling difference and the toughness and things. When you watch an Indiana team play, in the Big Ten and have a lot better competition than a team like Wyoming, I think there's it's not as drastic as college football, but there is just a size and strength difference, which makes Indiana, in the conference that it is, and Wyoming in the conference that it is. And I think those things will come about. So I haven't even really looked at the first four too much, to be honest, outside of that. Like the Rutgers Notre Dame game is kind of interesting. But
Mhm.
outside of that, I haven't even really looked at this Indiana Wyoming game and kind of just assumed Indiana was going to win.
Yeah, of
With
course.
that
Yeah, and
assumption.
that's fair.
Yeah.
There is a question from Tommy, Texas, Virginia Tech. Who do you guys got? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but did you want to dive into that a little bit more, Frank? I think this is
Yeah,
an intriguing matchup, right? You talk about Virginia
yeah.
Tech playing pretty strong
The
lately.
numbers pick them right now, but I do think Texas is a little bit underrated in the market and a little bit underrated out there. I made them about a 2 point favorite, so I would take Texas in that game. But it's hard to account for the fact that Virginia Tech played extremely well in the tournament and towards the end of the season. So we'll see. I think they're a little bit, in general, I think they're a little bit undersized. But any of these teams have, like a Virginia Tech that has really good guard play over the last couple of years. You shoot 48% in a game and you can win it by 3, 4, 5 points, so anything can happen. And a lot of these mid-level seeds are really jammed together this year.